Hello, welcome back to the channel. It is Dan, Nocturne Knives. I'm coming at you today with a video with some testing and sharpening of this knife. So I'll start it off with some testing footage. I cut a bunch of rope and stuff, and then I simulated some harder use cutting incidents like running into staples, stripping wires, all kinds of stuff like that. I hope you find it interesting and informative. I wanted to put this blade steel, the CPM M4, kind of through its paces, see what it can take, and it didn't disappoint. It did really, really well. You'll see that in the footage coming up. And then after that, I wanted to go ahead and sharpen it, which I'll also include in this video. It sharpened up beautifully. This M4 took an amazing edge. It was really nice to work with. So let's get into that, and then we'll come back around and finish back here with some final thoughts. First up, I've got this 1/4 inch sisal rope. I'm just going to cut this on this piece of 2x4 here. Just cut a bit of it up, see what happens with the edge. I've been cutting some other stuff, like a lot of cardboard. I cut up a bunch of cardboard with this, and the edge just kept on going. I gave it a really light strop with some 10 micron compound on leather, and it came back almost instantly to just hair popping sharp. So I want to see what this sisal rope does to it. Alright, that's a lot of rope cut. I didn't bother cutting how many cuts I did or the length. I just wanted to cut some rope, cut a decent amount. It's been a few minutes of just cutting rope with this one kind of 3/4 inch section of the edge. And let's see how sharp it is. It feels pretty sharp still. Running through phone book paper pretty well still. Here's the bit of edge I didn't use for comparison. And there's the bit I was cutting with. So it's just slightly rougher, but still going through the phone book paper no problem. And it's still wanting to shave hair. Doesn't really feel any different cutting the rope. Still biting in nice. Now here's some electrical wire. This is Romex 14/3. And I just wanted to see, just to try stripping some of this wire, see what the edge does. Stripped 3 of those wires with this bottom section of the edge, and can't really see anything at all, any deformation. I can kind of feel just the slightest of catches with my fingernail, but I can't really see anything. Zoom in on that. Yeah, no real damage to speak of. Phone book paper, no problem. Okay, here is a copper staple At least I'm going to assume this is copper. I want to see how tough this edge is, the steel. I'm just going to give it some light taps with the edge. Like say you were cutting through some wood or some cardboard and you ran into a staple holding it closed. You can see the impacts there on the staple and on the edge. Nothing of note. I can feel it with my fingernail, I can just feel some tiny little catches. But I don't think they're visible at all. You can just see the tiniest of microchipping on there. Take a few more whacks. Now we've got some deformation. Those were a fair bit harder, and now there's just a little bit of actual edge damage. Just some very, very minor rolls. You can see right here. Still going through the phone book paper though, even with that bit of damage. You can definitely feel the catch right there, but it still cuts through it. Do some whittling into this pine block here. Really kind of torque that edge in there. It's biting in pretty decent. Not too bad in hand. You get a little bit of action from this compression lock area, but it's all right. That's the only kind of issue I have with the compression lock, is it leaves an empty spot in the grip right here. So it can be a little bit of hot spot in a hammer grip. Now do some chopping into it. Across the grain. Take a look at the edge. Looking perfect after all that. Yep, nothing to feel. Get our phone book paper back, and yep. No problem. And keep in mind, this is the factory edge. This is what we're getting from the factory edge. I have not sharpened this, only stropped it a few times. Here's some more of that electrical wire. Just gonna take a few kind of whacks at it. Here's the edge. I did it kind of in this section. Not much to see, nothing to feel. I'm just going to kind of shave some of this stuff. Putting a lot of force into that cut kind of through the wire, and it did nothing to the edge. Take a little chop at it. Here we go. Here's a deformation. See it right here, right above my thumbnail. Tiny little chip. Actually, it's just a roll. It's a very small little roll. I can barely even feel it with my thumbnail. Still going through phone book paper just fine. Here's some cardboard. Going through that with ease. Yeah, this edge is kind of a monster. This edge is a beast. I mean, super tough. Slammed it into a lot of wire and these staples and shit. Put it through a bunch of cardboard, a lot of rope, and there it is, through phone book paper. You can't argue with that. Here's a little sample strop I have. This one is a test strop with some 10 micron compound on it. Just going to take a few strokes. And so smooth. You can see it's still got some little imperfections in there, but they're very minor. And now in terms of sharpness, it's pretty much back about to where it was, save for those rolls, those tiny rolls and chips. Super sharp. Right here I have a 140 grit diamond plate. This is the Chef's Knives to Go diamond plate. Great value. I'll have this linked in the description. It's really good for flattening your stones and doing kind of grunt work like this. When you sharpen a Spyderco like this, the first thing you want to do is get this edge going all the way back to the plunge grind. Right now you can see right at the base of the edge, there's a little flat spot, just a tiny little unsharpened portion of edge. I want to get that all the way back to the plunge grind. Get rid of that flat portion, that unsharpened bit, and make sure it's continuous edge all the way back. So that's what this is for, the 140 diamond plate. Honestly, any diamond plate, probably 400 grit or lower, is going to be just fine for this. As with most sharpenings, you want to start with sharpening your edge so you can see where you're removing material. This just makes it a little bit easier. It's not necessary, end rolls and things, but I want to match this factory edge pretty much, because I like the angle this is sharpened at, so I don't really see a need to change it. I'm just going to keep the edge pretty much what it is. Now, edge has been sharpied. You can watch my video about finding your edge angles and everything. I'll have that linked up in the top right. Mentions the Sharpie trick, and this marker just makes it easier to find and hit that bevel angle. And now I'm ready to move up in my grit progression. And that is pretty much everything that I'm going to do with this diamond. This stone is a Sharpening Glass 500. I just flattened it to make sure the corners will be nice and sharp to get into the plunge grind easily. That's something you want to make sure that all your stones in this progression have, is some nice, pretty sharp corners, because they have to be pretty crisp to get back into this corner where the plunge grind is. Now, I think this will be coarse enough to get rid of these 140 diamond scratches, but we'll see. Oh yeah, that's working just fine. Here's what we're looking at. Getting the scratches out actually quite easily. This 500 is perfect for this. When you're coming in here, again, watch the plunge grind. make sure it's lined up with the edge of your stone. And then instead of with the diamond plate where I rode the edge of the stone, you want to come in and just hit the stone and move just away from it gently. You don't want to ride it as much. I'm just going to touch it and move away from it. And I'm putting just a little bit of extra pressure into this heel area. I have all those diamond scratches out and replaced with a nice 500 grit scratch pattern. Now I'm going to move up to my finishing stone, which will be a Veneve F800. As you're getting into this heel area where the plunge grind is, you just want to remember to put more pressure on the push stroke, that edge trailing stroke, than you do on the edge leading. And this will just help prevent you from cutting into your stone. Now, on to the finishing. I have all those 500 scratches removed. Now I want to set a nice consistent scratch pattern and then deburr. So to set the scratch pattern, I'm going to take strokes along the entire length of the edge to get all the scratches lined up going in the same direction and get everything nice and consistent. Now on moved. Now I want to set a nice consistent scratch pattern. Okay, I have a nice consistent scratch pattern on both sides. Now going to take some light edge leading passes for deburring. The 90-degree plunge grind on Spydercos does make them definitely trickier to sharpen. Especially the first time, it's going to be a little more work. It gets easier after that first. Okay, edge is feeling really nice. I don't feel any burr. Looks good. Nice and consistent. Let's see how sharp it is. So this is straight off the stone. And yeah, it's already really sharp. See what's happening, and pretty good. Pretty good through the paper towel. It's catching just a little bit, which tells me there is probably a little bit of micro burr left on the edge. Yeah, could be cleaner through the paper towel. But pretty good as is. Not bad at all. Let's take a few strokes on a strop and see what happens. As always, before stropping, you want to clean the blade really well, get all that stone grit off of there so you don't contaminate the strop. This is a little test strop I made. This has Jinde 0.5 micron on it. Just trying this out. I realized the other day I had a bottle laying around that I'd never used. I'm just going to take some really light strokes. Yeah, that cleaned it up. I would say I need a new paper towel. Yeah, that cleaned it up. See, very smooth through this paper towel now. Very smooth cut. And we're back on the mat. Got this all sharpened up. Tested everything. It's stupid sharp right now. Here's some phone book paper just to give you an idea. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm really liking this M4 blade steel. Really tough, holds a beautiful edge. As I said in the testing footage, I had cut a bunch of cardboard with this edge, and it just wouldn't quit. It stayed sharp through all of it, and it didn't need it, but I gave it a couple swipes on a strop a few times, and the edge came back absolutely beautifully, like it never even cut any cardboard. Really nice. The toughness during testing was awesome. Barely any edge damage from slamming into those copper staples, pushing through those wires and carving the copper wire. All that kind of stuff did almost nothing to this edge. I'm really impressed with Spyderco's M4. Great steel so far in my experience. And then the edge in sharpening, it was absolutely wonderful to sharpen, to get to a finish where I liked this. It took the scratch patterns really well. It felt good on the stones. Deburred really well. It deburred phenomenally well. Straight off the stones, it was cutting through phone book paper and paper towel with ease. The deburring process was awesome on this. Tells me that it's pretty hard, well heat treated. Spyderco is always doing a good job with their steels. So you can bet that they're using something like M4, they are treating it right. You're going to get it well done from Spyderco. As you can see here on the edge, got it all the way back to the plunge grind. Nice clean edge. Going all the way back, try and get that in focus. There it is. There you go. Nice clean edge all the way back to the plunge grind. It's always a little bit of a hassle the first time, but the second time will be much easier, and further sharpenings will just get easier. I think that's all I have for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it interesting. I would love to know your experiences with Spyderco steel, maybe M4 specifically, if you've tried it, or what your favorite steel from Spyderco is. Go drop a comment down below. Let me know, do you find their steel and heat treatment edges to hold and work better than other knives, or is it about the same in your experience? Love to hear it. Drop a comment down below. While you're down there, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe button. Definitely help me out if you like sharpening, knife content, all that kind of stuff. And with all that said, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.